Hey, fellow investors, have you ever been scrolling through your stock research, seen that a company is, say, 80% institutionally owned, and thought, yes, this is it, the smart money is in? Well, what if I told you that number doesn't mean what you think it means? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on this whole smart money myth.
So let's just cut right to the chase. That big, comforting ownership number that you see as a huge green flag, it's pretty much just background noise. It's a bit of a mirage, actually. And in this explainer, we're going to give you the glasses you need to see right through it.
All right, first up, let's talk about the myth itself. You know, this idea that we should always follow the whales, the big institutions. It's one of the first things you learn in investing, right? Let's dig into why that is.
Okay, so just to make sure we're all on the same page, what even is institutional buying? Simply put, it's when the big dogs, we're talking mutual funds, pension funds, hedge funds, come in and buy massive amounts of stock. These guys control almost all the money in the market, so yeah, their moves can literally steer the ship.
And look, this is exactly why we're taught to get excited about it. It feels like a stamp of approval from the pros. It can create a solid price floor because these guys don't tend to panic sell. It makes the stock easier to trade for all of us, and it can kick off these huge long-term trends. I mean, on the surface, this all sounds amazing, doesn't it?
But, and this is the big but, is all of that buying really a genuine, high-conviction seal of approval, or is there something else going on that we're not seeing at first glance?
And that brings us to the real heart of this whole thing. It's time to learn how to decode what's going on, how to separate the actual, meaningful signal from all the distracting noise. Okay, everybody lean in for this one. This right here, this is the whole ballgame. All institutional money falls into one of two buckets. On the left, you've got discretionary buying. Think of this as a star portfolio manager pounding the table saying we have to own this stock. This is the real smart money. And on the right, you've got non-discretionary buying. This is basically a robot just following orders because an index fund's rules say it has to. It's not a choice, it's an obligation. So where's all this noise actually coming from? Well, it's mostly from two places. First, you have these custodial holdings. You'll see a big bank like State Street as a top owner, but they're not making a bet on the stock. They're just the high-tech storage unit holding the shares for someone else. And the second one, this one is huge, is passive indexing. Every single time you or I put money into our S&P 500 index fund in our 401k, we're forcing giants like Vanguard and BlackRock to go out and automatically buy shares of everything. That shows up as a massive institutional purchase, but it has absolutely nothing to do with how good that company is.
Okay, so that's the problem. Now, how do we fix it? How do we actually spot the real signals and tune out all that noise? Let's build a practical toolkit you can use right away. You know, it's actually not that complicated. It really boils down to a simple three-step checklist. When you're looking at who owns a stock, first thing you want to do is check the manager type. Is it a high-conviction hedge fund? That's a great sign. Second, look for active mutual funds. Are actual stock pickers choosing to buy this? And finally, and this is a big one, if the top owners are just the usual suspects like Vanguard or BlackRock, you got to be skeptical. That's probably just passive money flowing in.
All right, enough theory. Let's get our hands dirty and put this new toolkit to the test. And we're going to do it with two of the most popular, most talked about stocks out there right now, NVIDIA and Micron.
Let's start with a giant, NVIDIA. I mean, it feels like everybody and their brother owns the stock, right? But the question for us, the smart investors, is why do they own it? Is it a choice or is it an obligation?
And boom, here's the signal, clear as day. Look at this. You've got Bridgewater Associates, a legendary hedge fund, making a massive, deliberate, almost $700 million bet on AI through NVIDIA. That is a choice. And then you see active funds like Fidelity's Growth Fund holding way more NVIDIA than the index says they have to. That's them basically shouting from the rooftops that they believe in this company.
But now, let's talk about the noise. The Vanguard Group is the biggest shareholder of them all, with over 9% of the company. And at first glance, you think, holy cow, that's incredibly bullish. But then you remember our playbook. Most of that is non-discretionary. They're just the robot. Every time money flows into an S&P 500 fund, the robot has to buy some NVIDIA. No thought involved. It's just mechanical.
Okay, now let's switch gears and look at Micron. This is a totally different kind of story. This isn't about broad ownership. This is about sharpshooters making very specific, high-conviction bets.
And man, the signal here is just screaming at you. You've got a legend like David Tepper at Appaloosa not just buying but doubling down on his position. That is pure, uncut conviction on the chip cycle right there. Then you see specialized, active funds that only focus on semiconductors boosting their stake.
These are the real experts making a deliberate choice.
And yet, here we go again with the noise. You see that headline number, 81% institutional ownership, and you think, wow. But then you look closer, and who's at the very top of the list? Yep, our old friends, the big indexers. This is the perfect example of how a really high ownership number can hide the real story, which is the smart, active money buying up shares just below the surface.
So we've busted the myth, we've seen it in the wild with real stocks. Now let's boil this all down into a super simple playbook you can start using today for your own research.
Here it is, your new cheat sheet. For a big, popular stock like NVIDIA, you're hunting for relative weighting. You want to ask, are the active managers betting bigger on this than the index requires? And for a more specific play like Micron, you're looking for concentrated purchases. Is a real sharpshooter, a respected fund, making this one of their top 5 bets? That tells you so much more than the passive money.
So from now on, when you see that big, flashy institutional ownership percentage, you're not going to be fooled. You're going to smile because you know how to look past it. You know how to find the discretionary smart money and just ignore all that passive noise. So the only question left is, whose moves are you going to watch now?